Hello, my name is Earl Smith, and I am a Network Systems Management instructor here at Trident Technical College. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a straight-through patch cable. Now, in order to do this, you're going to need a few things. First thing you'll need is a piece of Cat 5e or better. You can make Cat 5 patch cables up to 25 feet, so you can actually use the cable itself to tell you how long it is. Every 2 feet, there's writing on the cable with the footage. So this here is 672 feet. 2 feet down, you can have 674 feet. So you can kind of walk out your cable to get you the right length. Just make sure that your cable should not exceed 25 feet. You will also need a nice pair of sharp snips, pair of RJ45 crimpers, and your 2 RJ45 ends. Now, I've already done the first end, so together we're going to do the second end, and then we'll test the cable to make sure that the connection is good. I would also recommend that you have, when doing this, and anytime that you're working with tools, using a pair of Z87 or better safety glasses, as well as cut-resistant gloves to protect your fingers and your hands from potential punctures or cuts. Now, I always use a cadence with everything that I do. I typically do things the same way over and over because if I make a mistake, I can always identify what my mistake was based on the steps that I take to do something. So this is how I make my straight through cables. The first thing you'll see me do is score the cable, which literally means I'm just gonna gently cut the actual sheathing, circular motion, just spinning the cable itself, which allows me to just pull off the sheathing of this section. Inside, you're going to have a piece of string, which we will need, and your 4 twisted pairs. You got your blue, orange, green, and brown pairs. The next thing you'll see me do is make a very small snip near where that string is located. That's going to allow me to put the string in that little snip, little gap there, and pull it to separate more of the sheathing. Typically about 2-3 inches. Now the next thing I do, and this is very important, I always cut off this section here because you never want to run the risk of possibly cutting the wire or exposing the copper inside when you're scoring the cable. If you do that, a lot of times you'll be unaware and it'll result in intermittent connectivity issues or potentially the cable failing completely. The next thing you always see me do is cut off the string just to get it out of the way. We don't need this anymore. Next, very carefully, I am going to make another little notch in the sheathing as close to where the string ended the cut. The purpose of doing that is to allow me to peel this around to try to make it as close to a perfect circle as possible. Put my snips down. Next thing we do is untwist each of the pairs. Now when you untwist them, my recommendation is to try to untwist it just a little further than the actual yellow sheathing. And then you can just kind of grab them and pull to make them straight as possible. This is going to be very important for the later steps of putting the actual RJ45 connector on. By making the wires as straight as possible, it's a lot easier to manage. Another way that you can straighten out your wires is if you have a pen or a pencil, you can just kind of put the wire between your finger and the pen or pencil, squeeze it, and just pull. And that's another effective way. After you've made several of these in a day, fingertips might get a little sore, so it'll make it a little easier on you. Get these last 2 pairs untwisted here. All right, so next, we're gonna put our wires in order. Now, my other end that I've already made is 568B, which means my orange pair is first, or to the left. So in order for me to make this a straight through cable, this end has to be the exact same. If I accidentally made this end 568A instead, then instead of a straight through cable, what I've made is a crossover cable. So I got my orange, white, and orange, green, white, then blue, blue, white, then green, brown, white, and then brown. I just kind of straighten all the wires out best I can. There we go. And then I pinch them all the way down at the bottom here, and then again a couple inches up. This is going to allow me to kind of shimmy the wires together to make them almost look like a flat ribbon with no gaps in between them. This makes it a lot easier to put the wires through the RJ45. Now I take what I can consider a pinch, maybe about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of wire, and I hold them all nice and tight together there. And I'm going to use my snips to try to cut them as close to the tip of my finger without cutting my finger. And you want that cut to be as straight as possible so that all of them can touch evenly when you put the connector on. And actually, I'm just going to cut off just a tad bit more of this. You don't want the wire to be too long, because when you put the RJ45 connector on, you want this yellow piece, this sheathing, to come up beyond this little notch. I don't know if you can see that there, this little notch here, because when you crimp it, that notch is going to push down on the sheathing. You want that pushing on the sheathing and not your wire to prevent potentially damaging your cable. Next thing I typically do, I'll double check just to make sure that not by any chance my wires didn't come out of order, which in this case they have not. They're still nice and flush as far as the length. I'm going to take my RJ45 connector with the tab down, and I'm going to put my wires through at an angle slightly upward. The reason I do that is to kind of help them stay flat and together. There is also a little spacer between each of the slots where the wires go. So that way you don't end up with 2 wires in the same slot. And you see how that just kind of pushes that all the way through? And notice that the yellow sheathing has come up beyond that notch. So when I crimp it, it's going to crimp down on the sheathing rather than on the wire itself. Now also, if you look inside, hopefully you'll be able to see this. Down at the bottom, down here at the bottom, you should see the 8 copper heads, the tips of each of those wires pushed up against that. That lets me know that all my connectors are all the way through. Then I'm going to hold it. Using one hand, just kind of hold the RJ45 end on nice and snug. And I'll take my crimpers using the 8-pin slot, not 6-pin. That's going to be for RJ11. And well, just so you know, it's only going to fit into one. You can tell by the size that the 6-pin is smaller. So this wouldn't even fit in. I'm going to push it all the way through. See where it just popped out on the other side there? Then I'm going to crimp twice. I always go twice for good measure just to make sure I got it all the way. Now I have 2 RJ45 ends. Next thing I'll do is turn on my test device to allow me to test the cable to make sure that it's a good, clean, straight through cable with no errors. I'm going to put, you got 2 ports up at the top here. One is main, one is loop back. So I'm going to put one in both ends. The loop back allows it to send the signal back that is sent out, and that's how it tests the cable. So my first option is LAN mode. I'm going to select LAN mode here. May not be able to see that too well. And then it's going to actually test the cable. And then I have a passing cable. So all of 8 of my individual wires are connected on both ends, sending the signal straight through, confirming that this is a good piece of Cat5 patch cable that I can use for whatever my needs. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. Thank you for your time today. Have a good day.